A very good afternoon and welcome to the session on the topic Low Breast Milk Supply Causes, Signs, and Solutions. We are glad to welcome Dr. Rajshri Shankar today from Apollo Cradle and Children's Hospital, Karapakkam. We welcome you, ma'am. I would
Thank
like
you.
my audience to know that you can ask our doctor expert all the questions you feel like asking, or if you have any doubts, if you have any queries, write that on the comment box. We'll take your questions by the last of the session. So stay tuned. And now, that doctor, you can take forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome everybody to this session on breast milk. In this breastfeeding week, it gives me great pleasure to speak to all newborn moms and also women who are planning pregnancy, who are pregnant at present, who are also who will be delivering very soon. I hope this talk is informative and useful for all of you. So let's go on to the talk. I guess as part of Breastfeeding Week, you have all been exposed to talks on how important breast milk, how important it is for the baby, obviously, and also how important it is for the mom. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, other than to say that I hope that all you women are um, actually preparing for breastfeeding your little ones when they are born. So the talk today is about low breast milk. Low breast milk, what the possible causes could be, how do we even pick up on this low breast milk supply, and also what the possible causes could be, and how can we go about addressing this problem when it happens. Now, the breastfeeding is one of the most difficult things that a mother will have to do. And although this is one of the happiest times in a woman's life when the baby is born, it is also one of the most anxious periods. So there's a lot of anxiety during this time as to how to go about managing the newborn. There's also a lot of worry. There's also a lot of doubts on how to go about doing this so they do not feel any less a mother. And breastfeeding is actually a big part of new mothers' worries, basically, that happens when the baby is born. Now, contrary to what most people think, breastfeeding is not as easy as it is also made out to be, which means that please do not expect yourself to get everything right as soon as the baby is born. That is the reason why you're in hospital, because you need to get all your information, you need to get all the help you can while you're in hospital to establish breast milk supply for the little one. And this takes time. So the first thing that all you newborn moms have to remember is please be patient. Now, breast milk just doesn't establish as soon as the baby is born. You will only have a few drops initially, maybe even for the first 24-48 hours, which is the colostrum that your body produces for the baby, especially. The actual breast milk production takes time, sometimes up to 48 to 72 hours. And this is a time when people start to doubt whether they are going to be able to breastfeed their baby. So the first thing is have patience. Um, Wait till your body naturally establishes the milk supply. And the best thing that establishes this milk supply is the baby actually sucking regularly on the breasts. Now, this is what actually releases the hormones that makes your breast produce milk, and also the let down reflex, where you're actually, when the baby's feeding, that your ducts relax and actually bring the milk from the breast to the baby. So the first thing is please be patient. There is a difference between breastfeeding and bottle feeding. In breastfeed, the main difference here is that while you're breastfeeding, you do not really know how much milk that the baby is getting, and so there's this constant doubt in all newborn moms, newborn babies, mothers, whether they're actually producing enough milk that is sufficient for the baby. Now, nature always makes mothers produce enough milk for the newborn. Unfortunately, it is not in a bottle, so you do not actually know how much milk you're producing. And the only way to know that that the milk is sufficient is when you feel that your baby is satisfied. That the other ways to actually find out this is the babies have to actually have at least 6 to 8 motions, especially after day 3, day 4. They need to start having 6 to 8 motions a day. And they should not have a dry nappy for more than 12 hours. Or if the baby is sometimes very not very responsive, sleeping all the time, now these are all a sign that the baby is getting dehydrated, and that is mainly because there is not enough breast milk being produced by the mother. Now in situation like this, where you find that the nappy is dry for a long period of time, baby is not responsive, sleeping for long periods of time, then you need to go and get the baby checked out to make sure that the baby is not getting dehydrated because of decreased milk supply. Otherwise, in most situations, if the baby is producing 4 to 6 motions a day, that is sufficient enough. That shows that the baby is getting sufficient breast milk. Another way of actually finding out if the baby is getting enough breast milk is basically when the baby is weighed. Initially, babies lose about 10% of their birth weight, but after that, normally they catch up by about 10th day after delivery, and there is a weight gain that needs to happen every week, which the baby's pediatrician will be able to guide you. Now if the baby is not putting the weight back on that the baby lost, or if the baby is not maintaining the weight gain that they should be getting every week, then that might be a sign that the baby is not getting enough breast milk. So let's go on to the causes of breast milk deficiency. The commonest cause for women not producing enough, the first is the emotional changes that a woman undergoes after childbirth is the commonest cause why milk secretion might be affected. So a newborn baby typically has to feed every 2 to 3 hours, and by the time the baby is taken care of, fed, nappy changed, and then put to bed again, this does not give enough time for the mother to have enough rest. So both the anxiety of feeding along with lack of rest, lack of sleep, all together can be a very strong reason which can affect breastfeeding. So the most important, so while we talk about causes, I will also tell you about what we can actually do to prevent this or to actually treat this problem when it happens. So stress is the biggest cause now. Naturally, there are very few mothers who can't actually produce enough breast milk. So if you're anxious, not sleeping, tired, get all the help that you can. Get help from your family if it is possible. It is only you who can breastfeed, but there are other people who can actually take care of the baby once you have fed. So what you need to do is, once you have fed the baby, give the baby away so they can be managed by your family, and you need to get enough rest. Second thing that you need to also concentrate on is your own diet. Breast milk is mainly water, so you need to make sure that you're drinking enough and that you are not dehydrated, and therefore the breast milk is not affected. So make sure you actually drink at least 1.5 to 2 liters of water every day, or in liquid in any form, but at least make sure that you get enough liquids into your body. Because if you don't, then that again compromises the breast milk production. Um, the other thing you can do is make sure that while you're actually feeding the baby, you also keep taking something inside, which can be a glass of milk, you can have a slice of bread. So make sure that you're also having something while you're actually feeding the baby. Now, when you do that and you're getting enough rest, that itself reduces your anxiety and your tiredness. And for most women, if you take care of yourself properly, that itself will help to improve milk secretion. Also make sure that your diet is rich in calcium, so make sure you have enough milk in your diet too. Make sure you have enough nuts, have enough carbohydrates, so make sure you're eating normally. And you also have enough protein in your diet, which is your dals, which is chicken, fish. Make sure that you have enough protein in your diet, because breast milk contains all of this, and certain amount of fat too. So do add fat also in the form of oil, in the form of ghee, in the form of butter. I'm not saying that you have to overindulge, but make sure you have some amount of all this and you don't get into a strict diet straight after delivery. So your diet has to be balanced, because all of this is actually passed on to the baby as a balanced diet in the breast milk. So your diet has to be balanced too. So diet plays a very important role. Enough rest definitely plays a very important role, and reducing stress also helps. Actually, one of the other ways of reducing stress is to try to find some form of mild exercise, which might even be a 15-20 minute walk, which you can do by yourself. That gives you a little time to spend away from the baby just with yourself. So you also feel that you are taking care of yourself during this time. But sleep probably is the very important thing that you have to concentrate on. You have to make sure you're at least getting, if not, yeah, it's impossible to get continuous sleep, but at least that you're getting about 6 to 8 hours sleep, even if it is broken, that you're actually getting that much sleep in a day. So all this is the biggest thing that you can do to help to improve your milk secretion. Now, for some people, even after they do all this, they might find that they are not producing enough milk. One of the ways that shows that you might not be producing enough milk, like I said before, is that the baby's nappies are not wet enough, or the baby is not actually gaining weight. Now, for women who have this issue where the baby is not gaining enough weight, it might be that they're not still producing enough milk, and if they're not able to do it just by changes in their diet and their rest patterns, it's also important to look at certain hormonal problems that might cause, like thyroid issues. People with polycystic ovaries sometimes do not produce breast milk so well. But even in these women, there are measures that we can do. There are certain cough remedies like which have pseudoephedrine, which might also reduce milk supply. And for some women who start on the contraceptive pill within 6-7 weeks after delivery, that might reduce milk supply too. So do rule out these other factors, but these are usually rarer things. Now, once reduced milk supply has become an issue and it's proven, what can you do to improve the milk supply? Now, there are different measures that you can attempt to increase the milk supply. We have already talked about reducing your stress and improving your diet, improving your liquid intake. All of these, if you still find it is not helping with improving the breast milk supply, there are certain measures that you can start doing. Now, the biggest stimulation that for the breast that will improve milk supply is more frequent feeding of the baby. The more frequently you feed the baby, your body then gets the message that you need to keep producing more and that you're not producing enough. So for babies that are not feeding constantly, the next thing that you can start to do is to start pumping milk. And this you can do if the baby is only feeding once in 3 hours. You can pump your breast for milk pump milk just feeding. You can pump the remaining amount of milk and then use it to feed the baby for the next feed, and do this constantly, meaning you are feeding the baby and you're also pumping milk at the end if the baby has not completely emptied the breast. So you can use this for the next feed, and also you're giving your body the message that what your body is producing is not enough. For people who are even getting back to work and who have had good supply of milk, and then find that once they get to work that their milk supply is coming down, increasing the frequency of pumping can give the body the message to produce more milk. You can also try cluster pumping, what we say, where you pump for 1 or 2 hours. If, for example, in the evenings, if you feel that it is coming down, you can pump continuously. You can pump for 5 to 10 minutes, give a gap of 5 to 10 minutes, and do this for constantly for about 1 to 2 hours. And this again gives your body the message that the body needs to produce more milk, and therefore you might find that that also improves breast milk production. There are certain medicines that your doctor also will be able to prescribe that will also help to improve the breast milk production. Now, these are all different measures that you can try to do. If you find that you are having issues with flat nipples or inverted nipples, the other thing that you can also do is go and see a lactation consultant who can actually check your nipples and give you ideas, suggestions on how to make it easier for the baby to latch on. Because if the baby is not latching well, then again your breasts are not being emptied, and if your breast is not being emptied, your body does not get the message that enough breast milk needs to be formed. So over time, for people with flat or inverted nipples, they might find that the breast milk secretion also comes down. So for women like this, there are special techniques that you can do to actually make the baby latch on better, and therefore once they feed better, then the breast milk secretion also improves. So the most important thing that I would like to say as part of this talk is that for most women, breast milk production is usually not an issue. It's only the worry about women who have newborn babies that they may not be producing enough that usually starts the problem off. And that again is one of the reasons why breast milk secretion might be affected, because stress definitely affects breast milk production. And if you the most important thing about breastfeeding is the confidence that you should have while you're breastfeeding that your body will produce enough for the baby. And if you need help, of course, speak to your obstetrician, and also sit and work with the lactation consultant who will look at your specific issues and be able to help you in your specific situation on how to improve the breast milk production. So I hope this talk was informative. And like I said before, please enjoy this period of time. And while we talk about breast milk and breastfeeding, please do remember that breast milk is still food. And if there is difficulty in producing breast milk, it would still be okay to bottle feed the baby, because at the end of the day, milk, we think of milk as just food for the baby. And for people who have also started bottle feeding as supplement to your breast milk, if you still want to make sure that you're producing enough milk, always pump regularly. So even if you have actually given the baby a bottle, which means that the baby again will not feed for another for a long period of time from you. Just keep making sure that you keep pumping milk every 2 to 3 hours. So even when you feel that it's going down and the baby is needing all these supplementary feeds, make sure that you are still pumping every 2 to 3 hours. So your body does not get the message that it does not need to produce for 6 to 8 hours when you might have given your baby a bottle in between. Do still pump milk every 2 to 3 hours, whatever that quantity of milk might be. Do give that to the baby. So, but still keep stimulating your breast to make sure that your body keeps getting the message that you still need to produce enough milk every 2 to 3 hours, because you might find that some certain periods of time that your breast milk does go down, but it will come back if you keep stimulating your breasts again. You'll find that the breast milk will again start to be produced. So do not give up hope. Do not keep trying as much as you can. But what I would still say, if you're finding it difficult, you can still use formula, but keep trying also to produce as much as you can, because even that amount of milk is sufficient to pass on the benefits of antibodies to the baby to help to fight against infection. So I hope this talk was informative. And if you have any questions to ask me, I pray you can go ahead and ask me now. Okay, thank you. No